So I just got back from a tournament where I lost in embarrassing fashion. Um, I lost in the first round um, with an injury, a rib injury. I haven't had a rib injury in years. It was early blue belt where I had like three within a span of like 2 years or something. And totally my fault, just not playing guard properly and getting under the opponent and then pushing up from a really bad position, stuff like that. And I haven't done that type of movement in years. And what I attribute the loss to, and I felt like I had like in the first like couple minutes, like the beginning was good, but then right after that, I started to devolve quickly into my blue belt, uh, into a blue belt, and I attribute that mainly to burnout. So this video is going to be about burnout. Um, I've been struggling with burnout my entire life as a student. I would say most of 11th, 12th grade, all of college, I was burnt out. When I was building my business, I was pretty much burnt out all the time. And now doing jujitsu, I'm finding myself burning out a lot. This has happened before in competitions. Um, and I'm one of those guys where I feel like you have to challenge yourself, you have to push yourself constantly. So part of me just never really believed in burnout. I would hear people say they're burnt out, and immediately my reaction would be like, "Oh, suck it up, you fucking loser, pussy. What the fuck? Just push through it, grind it out." The competition team that I made, the name is Grind Competition Team because I really believe in the daily grind. It's what that type of consistent effort is what creates success and happiness and strength and health. uh, Let me just describe how I felt in the 30 minutes before I went on the mat. But I want to contrast it with my previous competition, which was about 4 weeks ago. I felt before the comp, like training, I felt good. And I felt strong, I felt quick. Mentally, I felt pretty sharp. Warming up for that competition, I was having fun. I was managing my nerves really well, and I was listening to my music, just dancing like I normally do. And I was telling myself to just trust yourself, trust your instincts. And right before the match, I was in a different place. I was completely focused. I've never felt that focused before. I was kind of like that at the Asia Open when I won it last year, but this was a different level. I felt so focused that I usually listen to music all the way to the end, but the music felt like a distraction to me, and that was new. And I was like, okay, let's go with it. And I focused. I went on the mat and did really well. I won with the flying triangle. Now, I don't do flying triangles. I've never done it before in sparring. I've never practiced it. It was just there, and my body just did it, right? To me, that's like, at least for me, that's like peak performance. That's the apex. Like that's where I want to be, if possible. At all competitions, right? When I wasn't thinking, I was just doing jujitsu. I was reacting. I was strong. I was fast, and I was doing not what I wanted to do or what I normally do, but I was doing what the situation demanded or asked. So I responded really well, right? Um, this this recent competition where I lost, the warm up I felt like crap, just very tired, and my legs felt very heavy, and I was rushed. I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna have enough time to warm up, and even though I did, I just felt rushed, and I felt like a little bit panicked. And then I was in the queue, and I felt sleepy. and my legs and everything, my limbs just felt sleepy. And this is, I think, the main thing. Like, I was like, oh man, I don't want to do jujitsu right now. Um, so I think and then I wasn't there. I wasn't my normal self. So, when I came back, I was like, okay, there's definitely something wrong. I was sick. I'm still kind of a little bit sick, and I think I'm towards the end of it. That certainly played a role. But I've won competitions with no sleep, a little bit sick, like just malnourished, or just, little problems here and there, slightly injured. I've won competitions like that. So I think it was the burnout, and I came back and I was like, okay, is it real? Is burnout real? What the hell is it? Let's figure this out. So for the past 4 days, I've been doing a lot of research, and right now at this moment, I do believe that burnout is real. And I wanted to argue that it's real, and I wanted to discuss what I really wanted to know was, how does burnout affect athletic performance? In other words, was burnout the reason I lost my most recent competition? That's what I wanted to know. And from what I found so far, I would say definitely yes. I've never been this tired or this fatigued in jiu-jitsu ever before. Emotionally, physically, psychologically, all of that, like mentally. Let me get into it, okay? I'm writing a long article about this. I'm going to post it on my Substack, and I'll have the link below. But I actually posted another shorter article that's part of the longer article, and it focuses on something called central fatigue, okay? I wanted to know what the actual mechanisms were in the nervous system that cause burnout, that leads to bad athletic performance, okay? So it has to be something within the central nervous system, and that's exactly what I found. So I posted that article first, and I'm going to talk about this mainly. I'll talk about some other stuff as well. Okay. One thing I want to say before, well, let me give you a little bit of taste, okay? Central fatigue is when your central nervous system gets fatigued, and there's a lot of research into this. I mean, think about when your dopamine levels are low. Obviously, you're not going to be motivated, but there are a lot of hormones and there's a lot of chemistry going on that fires your muscles, right? The muscles are fine. I wasn't really tired. Like, my muscles were not really tired, but the nervous system wasn't firing properly, right? That's, if I had to summarize it, that's what it would be. Before I get into the science of it, I do want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, I still do believe that in the long term, the goal is not to win a medal. The long term, like, the goal is to become, for me at least, is to become a master at jiu-jitsu. When I'm 70 or 80 or whatever, I want to be at a point where I can confidently call myself a master of jiu-jitsu. And I'm still skeptical if that's ever going to happen. But so you have to have good jiu-jitsu technique. You have to have the physicality to actually do it. You have to have the right mentality and the psychology. You have to have you have to be good at competition. I think to call yourself a master at jiu-jitsu, you have to be able to do jiu-jitsu in a setting where other people are watching, where it really matters that you win. Not that your technique is just good or whatever, but you have to be able to win against a guy who also wants to win. And that is another skill, one that I'm working on very hard right now. I'd say like I'm a low, maybe like a no stripe blue belt or one stripe blue belt at competition, even though I'm a purple belt 4 stripe in jiu-jitsu. To know where your limits are, there's only one way to do that. It's to push so far and so hard that you go past your limit and you go, holy shit, I'm not in a good place right now. That was my limit over there. That's the only way you can know. It's like walking in a forest at night. There's no lights on. You don't know where you are. This is a new forest, and you've got a flashlight that only shines like 3 feet in front of you, right? So what do? You can't predict the path by like shining it because it only goes 3 feet, right? You have to walk forward, shine the light, walk forward until you run into something. You run into a wall, a tree, or something, and then you go, oh, that's not the path. Let's go to the right. And then you run into something else and you go, let's go this way, let's go that. And it's a trial and error process. People hate that. They want to know that prediction is possible. And I think a lot of philosophers, myself included, we want to be able to understand things so we can predict them, right? And a lot of that just comes from fear, the uncertainty. But that is life. Life is like that. I think that to know your limits physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, you have to push yourself so hard that you reach those limits. And I definitely reached that in a very dramatic way, such that I got injured and now I have to rest. And it's happened several times throughout my jiu-jitsu career. So now I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to okay, this is not the way for me to go. This is not my path. Like I hit a tree, a big oak tree, and there was like a sharp branch right in front, and I got nailed in the face with it, and I'm bloody and bruised, right? So very clear sign that that's not the path for me. I will say this. I think that most people don't know how or are not willing to push themselves that hard. And so when I hear people whine about, oh, I'm too tired or I'm fatigued or, I'm burnt out or whatever, I'm always calling it as bullshit because I don't see them pushing themselves that hard. Which leads me to my second point. I think most people, when they talk about burning out, I don't think they're burnt out. Like, you have to work pretty damn hard to get burnt out. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just like, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. I really want to clarify this, right? There's a guy in our gym who is a teacher at an international school, really good blue belt, and he wakes up at like 5 in the morning, ungodly time, works all day, comes to the gym, trains super hard almost every day, and then has to rush back home so he can get some sleep, okay? That's working hard, And if this guy started training for a competition or whatever, he's the one guy I would go to and say, okay, let's talk about this because, I'm afraid you might burn out on jiu-jitsu. So let's come up with a smart training plan for this. And then we have other guys in the gym, like young guys who they're not working, they're not in school, right? They graduated from high school, but they're kind of in limbo, but they're not going to school. They're not working. They live at home with their parents, and they sleep 10 hours a day, and they train 3 or 4 times a week. They do one class at night per day. These are like early 20s guys, and they're telling me that they're too tired to do comps or it's too hard and all this. That's fucking bullshit. It's so the emotional response that I get when I hear this kind of bullshit, I can't overestimate how disgusting that is to me. I just have to laugh at it because it's so absurd when I hear that stuff. So, and then all the stuff, granted, it's a cultural war, especially in the US right now. People talking about mental health and everything. Yes, of course, mental health is extremely important. But it's the fucking lazy ass idiots who ruin this for everybody, right? Because I think we've all seen those videos of, kids, early 20s, they worked 15 hours this week and they're complaining about how hard it was. They're talking about anxiety and all this as they're framing it as a mental health issue, right? That's just complete bullshit to me. They actually need to do the opposite and push themselves a little bit more. And then they'll see, oh, actually, I feel better working harder, right? Okay. enough said about that. Let's get into the science. Okay. There's a lot here, and I am still learning a lot of this stuff. But when I read it, it was so intuitive to me. I was like, oh, yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay. um, if I were to kind of generalize what burnout is, I would say it like this. Number one, it's dopamine depletion. You don't have enough dopamine. You've used it all up. Number two, you fried your fuse box. Okay. Because it is all about like firing neurons, right? There has to be an electrical impulse that jumps across synapses to go to the other, and then that's how your muscles are fired, right? And if that's slow, or if the fuses are fried, or if there's too much of an anti-chemical, then your muscles are not going to fire fast, even though your muscles aren't tired, right? So it's a central nervous thing. So let's talk about this. Number one, neurotransmitter imbalances. So prolonged physical exertion alters the balance of critical neurotransmitters, specifically serotonin and dopamine. So what happens is your serotonin goes up, right? Serotonin is about like calming your body and going to sleep. Okay. Dopamine is the motivation hormone, right? But if you get serotonin is really high, dopamine's really low, you get this double effect of your body feeling like a zombie. That's how I would characterize what I felt right before the competition. And this is a really good one that I'm still kind of going deep, doing a deep dive on it. There's a thing called glutamate toxicity. Too much glutamate, okay? Glutamate is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system, right? So when the guy gives you an arm and you're able to expose it and you're like, oh, I gotta go for an arm bar, that's like glutamine firing your body to do that. Well, when you train too much and you don't get enough sleep and you're stressed out, like prolonged stress will activate too much glutamate as well. So when you have too much stimulation, right, you're doing comp training, you're trying to win, you're nervous about the competition, then excess glutamate is released. You have too much glutamate in your body, and then what that does is it actually starts damaging your mitochondria. Mitochondria, of course, is where your energy comes from, right? That's, why do you take creatine? You take creatine to replenish ATP, right? And that's what creates the energy. So glutamate toxicity is like anti-creatine, right? You're taking all this creatine, but you're actually, you're negating it, and then you're also creating like the opposite effect, okay? So that's the second thing. And good ways to recover from glutamate toxicity is, well, sleep is the best way to recover from all of this, all of burnout, right? And I knew this when I was young. When I was in college, I would pull all-nighters and feel like total crap. And my friends would be like, you're acting like an asshole, because I was so moody and so depressed. And then I would sleep like 2 days straight. And then I would feel like a different person. I would feel so happy and healthy and like, so sleep, and then omega-3, ginger, magnesium, and L-theanine. These are the things that will help get rid of the glutamate and restore that balance, okay? Third thing, these are the mechanisms of burnout, right? This is what's happening in your body when you're burning out or when you're burned out, okay? The third thing is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal. So there, those three things, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenal glands, there's an axis. I guess they interact with each other, and that's what regulates temperature and your feelings, emotions, your mood, and that axis is dysregulated. And this happens because of stress and cortisol, right? So if you're doing comp class, and you're stressed out because of the competition, then your cortisol levels are spiking all the time, and it's staying there. You're not flushing it out, and then your brain stress responses are just in overdrive, so they get tired. Then you get dysregulation in the HPA, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So high cortisol impairs synaptic plasticity and reduces neurogenesis in the hippocampus, and that affects your cognitive function and your emotional regulation. So when you feel brain fog or difficulty concentrating, that's what this is. Loss of motivation, sleep disturbances, and here's a big thing. I learned about this. It's called anhedonia. Anhedonia is the inability to feel joy or pleasure. Okay. I love music, okay? All kinds of music in all different kinds of moods and all different kinds of settings. And when I get tired from jiu-jitsu, I stop listening to music. It feels like work listening to music, as crazy as that sounds. I also love movies, and I can't watch movies when I'm tired. I am a complete jiu-jitsu nerd, so I'm always watching jiu-jitsu. I watch a lot of like my favorite players, their competition. And then I study instructionals. I think and study and watch jiu-jitsu nonstop. I'm a complete nerd, and I have been like that for the past 8 years of doing jiu-jitsu. But when I start getting tired from jiu-jitsu, I don't do that either. And so I think going forward, when I feel myself not wanting to listen to music or not enjoying music, that's going to be my cue. Oh, you're starting to burn out. Okay. So that phenomenon is called anhedonia. Look it up. Do your own work on that. In place of desire, you feel numbness, right? Okay. So number 4 is this is really interesting too. This is called reduced cortical spinal excitability. So central fatigue, or burnout. I think what I'll call central fatigue the key component of burnout. Central fatigue also affects motor control by altering cortical spinal excitability. This reduction in neural drive limits the recruitment of motor units during high-intensity efforts, directly impacting strength and coordination. Okay, so you could be strong, you could, you're not that tired, your muscles are not that tired, but they're just not firing. And that's what this is. It's the reduction in the excitability of your cortical spinal tract. Okay. So a little bit more on that. The cortical spinal tract is a critical neural pathway that links the motor cortex, right? So that's the voluntary movement, with the spinal cord. This connection enables the brain to execute precise control over bodily movements. Okay. That's almost like a sub-definition of jiu-jitsu. Precise control over bodily movements. According to Stat Pearls, the integrity of this pathway is vital for executing voluntary motor actions efficiently. Cortical spine excitability refers to how responsive this pathway is to neural signals. So when your excitability is high, even small signals from the motor cortex can produce strong muscular contractions, right? That's where we want to be, right? You want to be able to react with power very quickly in jiu-jitsu. Conversely, when excitability is reduced, stronger neural signals are required to achieve the same level of muscular activation, right? So then your brain has to work harder, and you have to be like, come on, do it, and your body just won't do it. That's reduced cortical spinal excitability. Okay. So that's burnout. It's real. It's a real thing that happens in your central nervous system. There's a lot more to it, which I'll cover in the article, but this is kind of what convinced me that burnout is real, that it's a physical thing. It exists in your body. Um, and okay, so just very briefly, how to recover from this, which is what I'm doing right now this week. Uh, Neurotransmitter replenishment, right? So you have to get your dopamine back up. Okay, so I'm taking a lot of vitamin C, vitamin B. I normally do that like only once or twice a week because it like impairs my sleep. But I'm not training right now, so I'm just like sleeping as much as I possibly can whenever I can. But I'm taking vitamin B. I'm also taking L-tyrosine, which is a precursor to dopamine. So I'm taking those in the morning. I'm also taking a little bit of creatine, not too much. Um, let's see here. Yeah, you want to do some parasympathetic activation. So the parasympathetic nervous system is like the nervous system when you're relaxed. Um, so meditation, breath work, active recovery, exercise, that kind of stuff will help with parasympathetic activation. For me, um, the best way to do this is to spend time with my family and get a lot of hugs and kisses from my wife and daughters. That immediately gets me into parasympathetic mode and helps me relax, right? Yeah, you have to rest. You have to rest really well. A couple of other so these are specific ways to enhance dopamine recovery, right? So a tyrosine rich diet. So there are it's called L-tyrosine. That's the supplement that I'm taking right now. Cold exposure, that actually helps with dopamine. There's a lot of videos on that, right? And like next week, I'm going to start working out again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the sessions really short, but they're going to be a little bit intense, not too intense. So that'll kind of, if it goes on for a long time, like my comp classes are like 2 hours of intensity, like not definitely, you should not do that. You should do like 20 minutes of I'm just going to do some intense kind of strength training work, whatever my ribs can handle. And that should help kind of get things back as well. And then I think the most important thing is just sleep. Sleep before 12 and try to wake up before 9. I always feel way better. I feel better than if I slept at like 1 in the morning and wake up after 9, right? That's the same amount of sleep, but I usually feel worse when I do that. So burnout is real. Train smart. Do your research. Start by reading my article on Substack. And yeah, let's get after it.